Heartwarming rescue. Discover how a brave son saved his mother Parrot from a deadly snake attack. Jake Thompson's heart pounded in his chest like a drum, drowning out the laughter from the backyard as he sprinted toward Mango, his pet parrot. One moment, everything was sunshine and smiles, a small gathering for a friend's birthday, with family and neighbors sharing jokes and delicious homemade pie. The next, chaos erupted when a sleek, deadly snake slithered into their yard, fixating on Mango as he innocently perched on a branch, oblivious to the threat. "Jake, look out!" his mother Linda screamed, her eyes wide with terror. Time seemed to freeze. Amidst the laughter and chatter, fear twisted in Jake's gut. He grabbed a shovel, its cool metal solid against his palm. A firm resolve surged through him. Without thinking, he launched himself toward the snake, determined to protect the vibrant spirit that brought joy to their modest farm. The world around him blurred. Friends gasped, some shouting encouragement, others fumbling for their phones. Their voices echoed in his mind, but all he could focus on was Mango's lively color sparkling against the green leaves. With a swift swing, Jake struck at the snake, adrenaline coursing through him as the creature recoiled, hissing in protest. The dramatic moment unfolded in a flurry of movement. The snake lunged, a flash of scales and danger, and Jake felt the heat of fear and determination collide within him. He swung again, heart racing, every ounce of courage pouring into each desperate motion. In a swift, graceful arc, his shovel connected, and the snake fell limp, a miracle for Mango that would be shared across the internet within hours. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Once the excitement died down, the aftermath left Jake shaken but victorious. News of his courageous act spread like wildfire, flooding social media feeds. A video captured the heart-stopping rescue, transforming Jake and his humble family farm into an unexpected sensation. But not all attention was welcoming. As likes and shares skyrocketed, so did discomfort. Town leaders and old friends began to question what it meant for a boy from a working-class family to receive such public admiration. Why was he deserving of praise? Critics whispered about privilege and prestige, hidden biases that twisted the tale of a simple act into a fraught narrative of merit and worth. Jake watched the uproar unfold, confusion gnawing in his stomach. He felt the weight of judgment but also an undercurrent of support coming from unexpected places. The very people who once worked alongside him in the fields were rallying, sharing encouragement and standing by him. But with every comment that praised him as a hero, another would undermine that praise. Jake knew he had to confront the uncomfortable truths hidden in the shadows of admiration. Could he redefine not just his family's place in the community but also what it really meant to be courageous? As murmurs swirled and divisions deepened, he stood strong, heart still fierce for Mango and their little farm amidst the chaos. Would compassion carry the day, or would prejudice grip the town tighter? The air thickened with uncertainty as Jake prepared to speak his truth, leaving everyone wondering what he would say next. Jake took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. He could feel the eyes of the neighborhood on him, some filled with admiration, others heavy with doubt. As he rose to speak, a silence enveloped the crowd. This was his chance, not just to voice his truth, but to redefine what it meant to be a hero in their small town. "Everyone," he began, his voice steady, yet carrying the tremor of emotion, "I didn't do it for fame or glory. I did it because I love Mango." He glanced at the parrot, who fluttered his wings and chirped, as if in agreement, a vibrant splash of color amidst the growing tension. "I know some see me as a hero for protecting my pet. But what does that even mean? We come from a place that values hard work, kindness, sharing a table together. That's what makes us who we are." He paused, letting the words settle, watching the faces absorb his plea. Linda stood behind him, her heart swelling with pride and worry all at once. She had always told him that true bravery didn't come from flashy heroics but from the heart. Would this message resonate in a world so quick to jump to conclusions? From the back of the crowd, Jake's childhood friend, Sam, raised his voice. You showed us that it's okay to fight for what we care about. That made you a hero to me. A smattering of applause broke out, rallying the spirits of others who felt the same, but the applause didn't erase the whispers. Jake could still hear them cutting through the cheers. Just a stunt, one voice murmured. Just a boy seeking attention, floated another. He took a step forward, muscles tense yet determined. Look, I know I'm just a kid from this town. But I promise you, I'm here to stand up for us. For the ones who work hard and don't always get recognized. We've all faced challenges, big and small. He looked down at his own hands, calloused from days in the fields, and lifted his gaze back to the crowd. I want to redefine what it means to be brave. It's not about how many likes you get or how many people worship or scorn you. It's about love and responsibility. The crowd shifted, a ripple of recognition passing between them. Solidarity started to build through the whispers, confusion giving way to understanding. Hope shone through the cracks of doubt. Can we stand together for one another? Jake continued, feeling a warmth spreading through him. Can we choose kindness and lift each other up, instead of tearing each other down? That's the kind of community I want to be part of. The applause grew louder, sparking tentatively at first, but soon it echoed like thunder. Jake felt emotion swirl within him, relief mixing with determination. Maybe this was his moment, a chance to spark change, to unite hearts instead of divide them. But as Jake basked in the warmth of acceptance, a shadow drifted at the edge of the gathering. The days ahead were uncertain. Could the townspeople hold on to this newfound unity, or would old tensions rise again? Would Jake be strong enough to face the inevitable pushback when the thrills of this day faded? With his mind racing, he glanced at Mango again. A chill crept into the air as a distant rattle echoed among the trees. Jake's heart sank. The threat was not just in the past. What if this was only the beginning of something larger brewing in the shadows? The crowd's applause faded into an uneasy murmur as Jake's eyes darted to the edge of the gathering. Heart pounding, he felt the shift in energy, the way a storm cloud rolls over the sun. A figure loomed at the tree line, barely visible, yet it felt as if the whole world shifted when Jake spotted it. The rattle of dry leaves reminded him that danger still lurked near. Mango, he whispered, instinctively reaching to ensure the parrot was safe against his chest. He could feel Linda's hand grasping his shoulder, her nails pressing into his skin, a reminder that he wasn't alone. What's wrong? She asked softly, concern etched across her face. Something's not right, Jake replied, scanning the shadows again. Just then, a piercing scream shattered the air. It came from the direction of the woods, a sound that chilled his blood. The sound repeated itself, a frantic call for help. Without thinking, Jake broke away from the crowd, fear igniting his every step. Stay here. He shouted over his shoulder, but Linda was beside him, her eyes fierce and determined. I'm not leaving you. They darted into the trees, the thick foliage swallowing them in an instant. The scream echoed again, raw and desperate. Each footfall felt heavy with dread. Time was slipping, and so were the lives that might depend on their bravery. As they pressed deeper into the woods, Jake's mind wrestled with panic. Who could it be? What had happened? It took only moments before they came upon a clearing where a woman was frantically backing away from a coiled, dark figure. Mom! Jake shouted, realization hitting him like a freight train. There she was, his mother, trapped between the snake and the trees, her face pale and filled with terror. She wielded a branch, swatting at the serpent, but it was clear it would strike if she faltered. Stay calm, Mom. We're here. Jake's heart raced. He and Linda rushed forward, adrenaline fueling their movement. Get back! She yelled as the snake hissed, ready to strike. Jake needed a plan, fast. He scanned the area, looking for anything he could use. A rock? A stick? His instincts kicked in. Linda, grab that stick. We need to distract it. Together, they hurriedly gathered what they could: a hefty old branch and some stones. "On three, we throw everything!" Jake called, his eyes locked on the snake. 1, 2, 3. They unleashed their makeshift projectiles, the sound of thuds echoing through the trees. The snake recoiled, momentarily distracted. Jake did not waste a second. He dashed toward his mother, rallying her to move. "Come on, Mom. We have to go." With shaking hands, she stepped back from the creature, fear giving way to instinct. Jake turned his back to protect her as they retreated, urgency surging in his blood. The snake, angered, seemed to follow them. The pounding of Jake's heart matched the rhythm of his footsteps. He couldn't allow fear to cloud his mind. "Keep moving," he urged, finally reaching the edge of the clearing. But just as they broke free from the trees, a snap echoed behind them. The snake lunged toward Linda, who was just one step behind. Jake spun around, every ounce of his being screaming to act. With desperation surging through him, he found a rock, raised it high, and hurled it with all his strength. It struck the snake, sending it slithering back into the underbrush. Breathless and adrenaline-fueled, they stood together, a protective shield against the unknown. His mother, trembling, rushed to embrace him. "You saved us. How did you know?" Jake felt relief wash over him, but the uncertainty remained. It didn't end here. Amidst the chaos, he realized something crucial: this would not just test their unity today, but it also opened the door to unanswered questions. What else lurked in the shadows? What challenges would they face when the day faded into night, with silence settling around them? Only the echo of their heartbeats remained, and from the depths of the woods came another rustle, an omen of trials yet to come. Jake's heart raced as the silence hung heavy in the air. The rustle in the woods sent chills down his spine. It was a sound of something more than just the aftermath of danger. It felt like a warning. "Are you okay, Mom?" he asked, glancing back at her. Her hands shook, still gripping the branch she had wielded against the snake. I think so," she stammered, her breath uneven. "But what was that creature? I've never seen anything like it before." Linda stood close, scanning the tree-line. "We need to get back to the crowd. Quick." "Wait," Jake said, narrowing his eyes. "Did you hear that? There could be more of them." He felt the words escape his lips just as dread filled his chest. The fear, it was as if it had a tangible weight pressing down on him. What if something else was lurking, watching them? "Maybe we shouldn't just run in the direction of danger," Linda suggested cautiously. "Then what do we do?" Jake's voice cracked with urgency. His mother's eyes dimmed, glancing back toward the dark woods, where shadows danced just beyond the reach of the fading light. "We can't just wait here. We need a better plan." They huddled together, formulating a strategy as the rustling continued, now joined by an unsettling sound, a low growl echoing from within the trees. Jake's instincts screamed that they had to move, yet he felt tethered, as if the very earth beneath his feet were debating their course. "You guys head back to the field," his mom finally said, steadying her voice. "I'll stay back and keep an eye on things." "Mom, no. We can't leave you," Jake shouted, panic squeezing his chest. "Don't argue with me, Jake. You're safer together. Keep Linda close. I can handle this. If anything else shows up, I'll make noise." The determination in her tone brooked no argument. But Jake felt as if time was slipping away. What if they left her alone and she faced another threat? "I just got you back," Jake said, emotion brimming in his eyes. "I can't lose you again." Linda placed her hand on his arm. "We'll all go together. We can't risk any of us being out here alone." Then, suddenly, another scream pierced the night, rising from somewhere deeper in the woods. It echoed with a desperate desperation that made the hairs on Jake's arms stand upright. "Mom, we have to move," Jake said reluctantly, fear clashing with his protective instincts. "Something is really wrong." Just as they turned, a shadow darted through the underbrush, a flash of fur in motion. Jake squinted, straining to see, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "Did anyone else see that?" he asked breathlessly. Linda shook her head, her face marred with confusion. The tension wrapped around them like chains. It could be a wild animal, she whispered, dread creeping into her voice. We need to get back to safety, his mother insisted, her eyes darting nervously. They took a cautious step away from the tree line and toward the faint glow of the gathering they had left behind, each sound magnifying the fear that had begun to coil tightly around them. But just as they felt the assurance of movement, the ground beneath them shifted. A low rumble shook the earth. What was that? Linda exclaimed. Jake glanced back at the woods, his gut wrenching. Something's coming. They quickened their pace, feeling an instinctual drive to escape whatever shadowy entity lurked behind them. Yet as they approached the gathering, an unsettling realization dawned on Jake. What would they tell the others? Could anyone even prepare for what was to come? The woods roiled with whispered dangers. The gathering was almost in sight, yet dark forces seemed to chase them. As his heart raced, Jake took a deep breath, knowing the answers they sought were still hidden within the shadows. What kind of truth would he have to confront when he returned to safety? Uncertainty gripped him, his mind racing with questions. Just then, from the thicket, another rustle echoed, a promise of more perilous trials to come. The glow of the gathering loomed like a beacon, yet Jake felt more scared than relieved. Each step felt heavier as his mind raced, the shadows from the woods pressing in on him. We're almost there, he murmured, urging himself forward. Linda's grip tightened on his arm. I just want to see the others. I want to feel safe again. But safety felt like a lie. The world they'd left behind felt miles away. What if we're not safe? Jake whispered, afraid to voice the fear that gnawed at him. His mother, still behind them, cast a quick glance back at the woods. We have to hurry, she said firmly. Her voice cracked slightly, revealing the raw edge of her fear. Jake could see the fatigue etched on her face, yet determination held her steadfast. Just then, a low growl resonated from the thick brush, freezing them in place. A pair of glowing eyes emerged from the darkness, gleaming like a predator silently sizing up its prey. Jake's heart raced like a drum in an empty room. Go! He yelled, pushing Linda ahead. The break in his voice was undeniable, a sound of sheer desperation. They surged forward together, his mother trailing closely behind. Keep moving! With every stride, the woods seemed to close in on them, thick with shadow and the scent of damp earth. His ears strained to hear anything over the pounding of his heart. The rustling behind them grew louder, chaos mixed with a primal hunger. He ventured a glance back. Another flash of fur darted through the underbrush, and fear grabbed his throat. Mom, hurry! He urged. Breathing hard, he could almost feel the darkness spill over their backs like a thick fog. A shrill cry split through the air, a voice he couldn't mistake. The gathering was close now, laughter and chatter existed as distant echoes of warmth. Yet the darkness behind them was a palpable thing, a force not easily shaken. Suddenly, the ground shook again. Jake stumbled, nearly falling, but Linda caught him just in time. Get up! We're almost there, she shouted, her voice laced with fierce determination. He tasted the bitterness of panic on his tongue, yet he pushed on. They broke through the thicket, just as another feral growl roared from the depths of the trees. The gathering burst into view, a bright, welcoming light surrounded by friends and families who were blissfully unaware of the danger trailing just behind them. His mother shouted for help, her voice rising above the laughter. Someone help! We need to get everyone out of here. A couple of families looked their way, puzzled, while others dismissed the urgency in her voice as nothing more than mere excitement of the night. Jake's heart sank. A heartbreaking realization settled: no one knew the truth, no one could understand the lurking evil they faced. Then his eyes widened as he caught a glimpse of movement. A massive form began to emerge from the tree line. It's coming, he warned, panic threading through his chest once more. Jake, we need to warn them. He heard his mother yell over the growing chaos, but people were still laughing, still clinging to their innocence. Jake wanted to scream, wanted to shake his loved ones awake to the reality he now faced alone. This isn't a game, he cried out, his voice trembling with fear and frustration. But behind them, something lurked waiting, watching, ready to pounce. As the massive figure edged closer, Jake steeled himself. They had to act. They had to make them listen. Should he lead the charge, get them all to safety? The weight of responsibility settled in his chest. In that moment, Jake realized that confronting the truth might demand more courage than he ever thought he had. But he would do it. For his mother. For Linda. And for everyone who remained blissfully unaware of the darkness gathering right behind them. What lay ahead felt insurmountable, but the question burned in his mind, could they all survive when the pull of danger was stronger than ever? The frantic laughter of the gathering was like a sharp contrast to the swift terror looming behind them. Jake could see the faces of people he knew, friends and neighbors, oblivious to the precipice they were teetering on. The warmth of the bright lights felt almost mocking when faced with the impending darkness. "Listen!" he yelled, desperation clawing at his throat. "You have to get out of here." But the words fell like stones into a sea of merriment, sinking without a trace. He felt Linda's grip on his arm slacken slightly, her confusion evident in her wide eyes. "Jake, what do we do?" she asked, her voice a whisper, the fear evident even in the simple question. His mother tightened her hold on both of them, eyes darting from the crowd to the tree-line, where the massive figure was now fully visible, a hulking silhouette crested with glowing eyes that seemed to burn into their very souls. "There's no time for fear," Jake shouted. He hated the tremble in his own voice, the hitch in his throat. Steeling himself, he turned back to the gathering, knowing he had to act decisively. "Everyone! We have to leave. Now!" Finally, a few heads turned, some people raising eyebrows in confusion, while others continued to laugh, wholly unaware. His heart sank deeper as a couple of parents stood, abandoning their playful games, looking toward him with puzzled expressions. They didn't see the threat lurking just behind the trees. The trees, now alive with movement as if sensing the shift in the air, a wave of instinct surged through Jake as he glanced toward the approaching creature. "Mom, we have to get closer. If we can just get to the fire, if they see the danger, they might listen." With a surge of determined energy, Jake took off toward the throng of people, dragging Linda along with him. His mother hurried to keep pace. "Stay close," she urged, her voice urgent as they threaded through the sea of faces. "Hey!" Jake shouted, reaching out to a family he recognized nearby. "Get your kids. Now. There's something out there." Puzzled glances met him, and for a moment, he felt like he was shouting into the void, his voice rendered powerless by laughter and light. But then, the growl echoed again, a low, bone-chilling sound that rolled through the air like thunder. The reaction was immediate. Eyes widened, laughter ceased, and confusion morphed into fear. People turned toward the forest, finally realizing the weight of Jake's warnings. "Run!" his mother screamed, and chaos erupted. Families scrambled, children cried out as parents grabbed them, desperate to find safety. Jake felt a surge of relief sweep through him, but it was quickly overshadowed by the fight-or-flight instinct rising as the creature advanced. Sirens and hints of panic rippled through the crowd. This was what Jake had wanted, but it felt surreal, seeing the very fear he had carried emerge from their oblivious faces. He was no longer just a scared boy, he was their warning. "Get to the cars!" he shouted. Moving away from the forest. "Quick, go!" He grabbed Linda's hand tighter, urging her forward as they wove through the throng. Behind them, the figure unfurled, fully a massive wolf-like creature, its fur gleaming ominously in the firelight. It was terror personified. "Faster!" Jake cried as people spread like a flock of startled birds, scattering in all directions. The moment felt electric, fraught with urgency, each second stretching impossibly long as the beast loomed closer. A heartbeat passed where time seemed to freeze, and then the creature leaped, its powerful frame springing with a feral grace. "Jake!" Linda screamed, but he couldn't afford to turn back now. They had to keep moving, they had to survive. "Stick together. Don't look back," he shouted. Would they escape the jaws of impending doom? Would they find safety or become shadows in the night? The chaos wrapped around him, but he focused on the goal ahead, driven by a fierce need to protect the ones he loved most. But as he dashed forward, a question loomed larger than the beast chasing them: would they reach safety in time, or had they already crossed a line from which there was no return? Jake felt the adrenaline pumping heavy in his veins as he and Linda darted toward the nearest line of cars. The cacophony of screams and the rustling of feet on grass blended into a chaotic symphony, one that filled him with both dread and urgency. The creature was behind them, an embodiment of nightmare, and it was gaining speed. Each powerful leap sent waves of fear rippling through his gut. "Keep moving," Jake urged, throwing a glance over his shoulder. The wolf had landed among the scattered crowd, its massive paws crushing the ground. A woman screamed, clutching her child tightly as she stumbled away from the beast. "Mom!" Jake shouted, suddenly aware that his mother was no longer beside them. Panic surged through him. "Mom!" He pulled Linda to a halt. "We have to find her." "Jake, we can't," Linda pleaded, but he shook his head, his determination hardening. He couldn't abandon his mother, not like this. "Stay here. I'll be right back." With that, he broke away, weaving through the throng, driven by desperation. Faces flashed by, some contorted in fear, others frozen in shock. He fought against the tide, pushing forward as he scanned the crowd for a glimpse of her. Then he saw her, standing frozen, eyes wide as she took in the chaos. The massive creature loomed closer, drawn to her like a moth to flame. Jake's heart raced, a primal instinct taking over. "Mom!" he shouted, forcing his legs to move faster than ever before. She turned at the sound of his voice, her face flush with fear. "Jake, run!" she cried, but he couldn't leave her. He couldn't let her face this alone. Just as he reached her, the beast lunged. Jake threw himself against his mother, knocking her to the ground as jaws snapped mere inches above. "Get up! We have to go!" he shouted, his voice rough with urgency. The growl resonated through him, a reminder of the power and danger that stalked them. With a quick glance back, he saw the creature recovering, its eyes locked onto them as it prepared to spring again. "Come on!" he urged, pulling his mother to her feet. She tightened her grip around his wrist, breathless as they turned to flee. "Where's Linda?" she gasped, fear cracking her voice. "She's safe. Just run." They darted toward the parking lot, weaving through the panicked gathering, and Jake's mind raced. He thought of all the times he'd felt scared, all the trivial worries that seemed so small compared to this moment. He knew they had no choice but to trust the twist of fate that had brought them together in the darkest hour. But as they emerged from the crowd, the scene took a shocking turn. The creature had cornered another group of people. Two kids stood, frozen in fear, while their father shouted and tried to shield them. Anger flared deep within Jake. How could he let this happen? "Mom! We have to help!" he shouted as he hesitated, torn. "Jake, we can't save everyone," she pleaded, tears brimming in her eyes. But that voice inside him, the one that demanded courage, battled against her words. "I can't leave them," he yelled back. Just then, the creature lunged again, snapping its powerful jaws mere inches from the man. In one desperate instant, Jake saw the look of terror in the kid's eyes and knew he couldn't turn away. "Mom, go. I'll be right behind you," he commanded, determination coursing through him. He dashed forward, adrenaline fueling every step as he shouted at the father. "Get your kids out of here. Now." The right thing had to be done, and in that moment, Jake realized bravery wasn't just about running from danger, it was about running toward it. Would he reach the family in time? Would he sacrifice his own safety for them? As the creature turned, fully focused on him, Jake confronted the beast head-on, ready to face the terror that threatened to swallow them all. Jake stood firm, the massive beast now roaring with fury, its eyes narrowing as they locked onto him. Time seemed to slow, every breath heavy, echoing in the chaos around them. For a fleeting moment, he felt like a spectator, anchored by sheer will as everything spiraled out of control. "Hey! Over here," he shouted, trying to divert the creature's attention. The growls deepened, vibrating through the ground. He glanced back at the father, whose wild eyes mirrored Jake's own fear and determination. "Get your kids to safety," he yelled again, urging him to move. The father hesitated, glancing between Jake and his children. But there was a flicker of understanding in his expression. With trembling hands, he scooped up his kids, cradling them close, and started to back away, slowly inching toward the edge of the parking lot. Jake's heart raced. Every muscle screamed for him to run, to save himself. But he couldn't let fear decide his fate. Steadying his breath, he took a step closer to the creature, inching toward it like a tightrope walker on the verge of tumbling. "Come on, you ugly bastard," he taunted, hoping to provoke it further. The wolf's massive body shifted, and it lunged at him, every sinew tensed as it shot forward. Jake reacted instinctively, dodging to the side just in time to feel the rush of air as the creature narrowly missed him. The ground shook beneath him, dust swirling as he barely regained his balance. He could hear the frantic cries of the father behind him urging his children to run, and he knew he had only seconds. "Move, Jake. Now!" yelled his mother from a distance, her voice a grounding force amidst the noise. But his focus remained locked on the beast. He had to buy them time, give them a chance to escape. Jake grabbed a nearby trash can lid, adrenaline fueling his boldness. He swung it in front of him like a makeshift shield, daring the wolf to come again. "You want me? Come get me!" he shouted defiantly. To his surprise, it worked. The creature turned its attention back to him, its feral gaze filled with predatory instinct. Jake took a deep breath, heart pounding furiously as he positioned himself, ready for the next onslaught. Without warning, the wolf lunged again, and this time Jake was prepared. He sidestepped its attack and swung the lid like a bat. The loud clang echoed, resonating sharply as it struck against the wolf's flank, distracting it momentarily. "Go! Now!" he shouted back at his mom, who hesitated only for a heartbeat before sprinting towards safety. As he processed the rush of survival instincts, Jake saw the family retreating to the car, shock and relief flooding their expressions. His gamble was paying off, but his heart twisted knowing he might not make it out himself. The beast snarled, turning back toward Jake, its eyes filled with unrelenting fury. A rush of fear coursed through him, yet he felt a fierce determination swell within. He was not going down without a fight. "Let us finish this," he yelled, adrenaline pushing him forward again. As he faced the animal, he felt invincible despite the odds. With one last look at the fleeing family, he readied himself, clenching his fists as the wolf charged once more. The moment of truth approached, and Jake prepared for the conflict that would define him. Could he outwit the beast? Would he emerge victorious, or would this be the end of his fight? Jake's breath came in frantic bursts as the wolf crashed toward him, a whirlwind of fur and ferocity. Instinct kicked in, and he crouched low, his remaining courage pushing him into a survival mode he never knew he had. The trash can lid felt light in his hands, but he clenched it tighter. Every moment counted. The ground rumbled with the beast's heavy footfalls. Jake remembered what he'd learned about animals showing weakness only invited disaster. So, he stood tall as the creature neared, attempting to project an image of strength. "I'm not afraid of you," he yelled, surprising even himself with the force behind his words. The wolf skidded to a halt, its nostrils flaring as it took in Jake's scent. Confusion flickered across the creature's eyes. Who was this human who stood so defiantly? Jake seized the moment and swung the lid toward the beast's face again, this time more like a slap than a swing. A sharp yelp erupted from the wolf as the lid connected. It recoiled back, shaking its head in surprise. Jake could feel a hint of power surging through him. It was working. Each time the wolf came at him, he would evade, using whatever he had as both shield and weapon. He gambled on sheer instinct, a life-or-death game of cat and mouse. Behind him, the father loaded his kids into their car, the sounds of their whimpers barely audible over the cacophony of the showdown. A part of him wanted to run, to join them in safety, but Jake knew he couldn't abandon the fight. Not yet. The wolf, now angrier than before, launched itself again. Jake scrambled sideways, feeling the air rush past him as the wolf brushed dangerously close. He steadied himself, heart pounding like a drum. This wasn't just about him, it was for everyone who needed a chance to escape. Suddenly, the wolf held a sound that resonated like a warning bell, and Jake noticed something shift. It was no longer just a wild animal looking for a meal, it seemed cornered, desperate, as if it too was aware that prey could just disappear. "Hey! You want a chase? Let us go," he taunted, swinging the lid again, this time toward the ground as if to indicate a path. The creature hesitated, its gaze locked onto Jake's. In that split second, Jake felt a strange bond, a reflection of its fear mirroring his own. The father's car lurched to life, the tire screeching against asphalt as the family made their escape. Just as he saw the last glimpse of them leaving the parking lot, Jake felt a surge of urgency. He knew what he had to do. This was his moment. Opening his arms wide, Jake yelled back at the wolf, "Over here." He took several bold steps backward, drawing the creature's focus entirely onto him. If there was a chance he could distract it long enough for his family's safety, he was all in. Adrenaline coursed through him as he retrieved a nearby rock, ready to throw it. Yet, just before he made the throw, something shifted again in the wolf's stance. The creature paused, scrunching its brow, making Jake realize how much they resembled one another. Both were trapped, both fighting for survival. In that eye-to-eye moment, as the wolf huffed quietly, something inside Jake clicked. Was it possible that the creature, in its own way, just wanted freedom? He stilled his arm and took a deep breath. "You don't have to do this," he said softly, showing no fear now, only understanding. The wolf blinked, and a surprising peacefulness washed over the battlefield. Jake's heart raced anew, feeling the tension imperceptibly lift. But then, just when Jake dared to hope for connection, a loud growl erupted from the forest behind the creature. The wolf snapped from its trance, muscles tightening. It turned, baring its teeth. Something bigger was coming. Instinct told Jake to run, but the realization hit him hard. He wasn't done yet. He couldn't leave, not now. What lay ahead? Would he face another beast, or perhaps have to confront a different kind of fear? As the rumble of an approaching force resonated through the trees, Jake's bravado mixed with anxiety. Instinct screamed at him to flee, yet his heart demanded he stay. He was a protector now, his mother, his friends, their laughter echoing like a distant memory filled with warmth and innocence. But now, danger loomed, and he couldn't abandon them to face it alone. "Jake. We have to go." Linda's voice cut through the air, a tremor shivering in her words. But he had glimpsed a haunted look in the wolf's eyes, a desperate need for understanding that sparked something deep within himself. "Stay close," he commanded, glancing back toward the beast. There was no time to waste. If they were to face whatever terror was coming, it would be together. An unspoken bond forged with resilience surged between him and Linda as she hesitated, eyes darting from the wolf to the dark woods. Branching instincts though, Jake took a steadying breath. It was time to confront the fear, to face whatever pursued them. "Let it come, we need to protect this place," he shouted, rallying himself. This wasn't just a moment of danger, it was a pivotal shift that would redefine how they understood courage. The rumbling grew louder. Shadows danced ominously along the treetops, as if the trees themselves were whispering tales of warning. Then, from behind the first beast, emerged a figure larger, darker, a brute reality towering in the twilight. The air crackled with an intense energy. With nerves tingling like static, Jake held his ground. "You want us? Then let us see what you're made of." He could feel the weight of the moment press into him. He clenched the trash can lid like a shield. Linda grabbed his arm, grounding him like an anchor against the storm. The twin beasts hesitated, then advanced, eyes locked onto their prey. In that critical moment, as they closed in, Jake remembered. He recalled each time he sought comfort from Mango, the joy the parrot brought, how fighting for what mattered transformed fear into love. Just as the creatures neared, Jake yelled, "This isn't just about us anymore. We can choose to fight with love instead of fear." The words fled his lips like arrows soaring toward the approaching darkness. The words lingered in the eerie silence. To his surprise, the wolf paused mid-stride, as if weighing his resolve, measuring his sincerity against the menace of the other creature behind it. Then, louder than the growling fangs or rattling bones, came the sound of hope. The crowd behind him, captured in the firelight, heard his voice. They turned, faces aglow with dread but filled with determination. A few brave souls began to step forward, empowering themselves with the boldness of Jake's words. "Stick together," Jake commanded, emboldened by their presence. "Help us face this darkness." Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed his mother rallying friends, drawing them closer. They filled the space, a united front standing undaunted against what had once felt insurmountable. Together, they offered a palpable light, pushing away shadows that lingered and threatened chaos. With a renewed spirit, Jake stepped forward again, connecting with the beasts. "We don't want to fight. We want to understand." Although instinct roared in the beasts, weaving ancient desires of survival, Jake's words hung in the air. Silence fell across the clearing, broken only by the trembling breaths of the two creatures. They hesitated, perhaps surprised at this passionate defense woven by a boy who dared to care, and then, like waves softening against a shore, something changed. The beasts pulled back, uncertainty flickering in their eyes, sensing the solidarity that filled the air. Jake took a step closer, voice sincere. "You don't have to be alone." At that moment, an undeniable transformation radiated through the crowd, vibrating with hope. They moved as one, standing bravely against forgotten fears together, not just for themselves, but for each other. The creatures paused, their powerful bodies relaxing slightly as if surrendering to a greater understanding. Jake's heart raced with possibility. Maybe this wasn't about weakness and strength. It was about coming together to confront their fears, allowing compassion to lead. With one last glance filled with conviction, he felt a wave of warmth between them, a connection born from courage. He extended a hand towards the beasts. They edged forward, drawn into the circle of humanity, sensing what had been missing all along. Hope.as the bond between Jake and the creatures grew, he could feel the collective sigh of relief wash over the gathering. They had overcome not just a physical threat, but the deeper need for understanding and unity, a vital mark of change in their small town. With tears of relief, joy flooded Jake. The shadows that once threatened to consume them faded, leaving behind a stronger community, united by purpose. Mango, a vivid splash of spirit, fluttered down, perching on Jake's shoulder, vibrating with energy. As they embraced this new beginning, Linda turned towards Jake, her heart echoing with pride. "You're their hero, Jake. You've taught us all that true courage transforms the world around us." And as the darkness dispersed, their laughter, once drowned in fear, filled the air like a familiar melody. No longer just a memory of chaos but a source of strength, marking a journey toward a brighter future. This was their moment, a transformation breathing life into the community, igniting a fire of hope that would carry them forward. Strengthened hearts, they faced tomorrow together. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for these incredible stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this journey. Comment below to share your feelings about this impactful ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The power of support can change everything.